In this video, we'll explore the app files structure for a SiteVision module. I still have the npm run dev command running. This is still on. So if I make any changes right now, the changes will be automatically updated. While I'm actively working on a module development, I'll keep that command running and then make changes. Let's explore the file structure. The most important things are inside the SRC folder. But right after you create the app, you may or may need to update the manifest.json file by app demo. So for each manifest.json, you'll need to update the app name. You can add translated version here. So I only have English version, so I just added this one here. You need to add a description, you need to add author, you need to add a help URL. So most of this will be static. So this one, this one is almost same for all the modules we develop, but the title and the description may change. All right, the other part is dev properties, which we talked about. You may or may not need to do some modification here. Okay, so our next focus will be under SRC folder. When I open the SRC folder, you will see 2 folders and 3 files. The setup tests we will ignore since we are not testing our app. Let's talk about the main.js and the index.js. The index.js is the entry point of our app. Here you will see a listener, which is listening to the root path, router.get on the root path. Whenever we are loading the app, this is the actual function that gets run. Here we can do server-side request. As you can see from SiteVision AI server app data, we are pulling some variable. The message variable is static, which is hello world. If you are wondering, this is the exact value that is being shown here through this app component. We will talk about this component just in a bit, but this one is how we can fetch a value from the config fields. So the config fields are inside the config folder. For the rest of the part, you do not need to worry about the structure. You may need to change these values. So not values, these props. So this app is a React component and we are passing 2 props here. Let's ignore the app component for now and talk a bit about the config field that you can see here. We are giving it a name, but we're pulling it from app data. This config field is under the config folder and then the index.html file. You will see here's only input field with a name of name. This name is what is being used inside here. Okay. So in here, if I name it name1, I'll have to update my index.js to be name1. Okay. If I save, SiteVision will automatically rebuild and then re-upload the app. As you can see here, it is saying preparing for executing. That's because it just pushed a new version to SiteVision modules. So when it is done, I can open the settings app. You can see only one input field, which corresponds to this input field here. I did not save this file. Let me resave. You saw that it rebuilt and uploaded the app one more time. Let me reopen the settings panel. If I now inspect and check the input field, you will see it has a name of name1, right? Okay. So let's add a simple value here. You can see that value is showing up after the hello world string. If we look at our app component, let me go back to the index.js page and then open the app component. You will see the app component is receiving the message and the name. Message is a hard-coded string called hello world and the name is coming from the input field. And then it actually just outputs them side by side. So message and the name. Here I can also do any type of customization. Let's add 1 exclamation mark at the start, 1 exclamation mark at the end, and then in the middle, let's add a emoji of fire and rocket and then bike. If I save this file, SiteVision, the scripts will rebuild and upload it again. It will execute and then show me a preview. Let's wait for it to show me the preview. And here is the preview of the app. You can see the exclamation mark at the start, at the end, and then in the middle there's the emojis that just like we added. All right, let's do another quick modification. Let's say I don't want the message property here. Let me get rid of that. I'll also get rid of the exclamation mark at the start. Let's say I also don't need it. I also don't want to pass the message here. If I save this file right now, it should give me an error. Okay, because we're not using TypeScript, it does not give me type-related errors. That's why I like TypeScript, but yeah. Let's do the cleanup in the index.js file as well. Since we're not using the message in the app component, I'll get rid of the message hard-coded string here and then remove it from initial property, which is here. Let me make this a bit bigger. All right. And then I'll also remove it from here. So whenever I make a change to the index.js file properties, I also need to reflect that in main.js. Okay. As you can see, the index.js and main.js looks a lot similar, but the main.js file is being used to hydrate the React component. Basically passes the default data to the React component until this is properly loaded. You can read about hydration by Google searching about it. It also has some description here if you just mouse over it. Yeah, but since we are not passing the app message component anymore on the index.js files, I'll have to get rid of it on this file as well. This app component and this app component will be same, but the main difference is in the main.js file, it will pull the props from initial state. Okay, this name here needs to match the prop names here. All right, that should be it. And if I look at the left hand side, as you can see, that string was removed and the value is showing up as exactly as we expected. I can go to the settings panel again and then change the value. Actually, let's not change the settings anymore. Let's update the styling. I'll close all the open files. Inside the components, there's the app folder, and inside the app folder, there are all the app related files. The app.js file actually contains the main app component. So our main view, which is being shown here, should be added inside the app component file. You can of course create multiple component files, but the main file that gets rendered is the app.js. So if I create another component file, I'll have to import it in the app.js and then show it here. Okay, let's do a quick demo of that as well. But before that, let me update some styles. The style is by default uses SCSS modules. As you can see, it's importing the whole style object from SCSS file and then adding the class name like this. Let me create a new class name. So in the app.scss file, do.superbold or supersize. Let's do that. And then I'll add a font size of the 5 pixels and then font weight of bold, and then maybe also font style to be, why not? I'll save this. I need to copy this class name and then add it here. So let's say instead of styles.text, I want to use styles.supersize. I'll replace that and then save. There's no error and this should update shortly. If it doesn't update, I can just go back and then click on the app name again, and you see this actually updated, right? It became bigger, the text is bold, and then also italic. So I'll also show you a neat trick. Let's say I want to use two class names. So both this class name and this class name, we can do that. Let me change the color property to a real color value here. Instead of gray, maybe we can do something like dark blue. Why not? I'll save it. I'll copy the class name. Let's say I want to use two class names here. Then I'll have to convert it to a template literal string. And the AI is giving me some suggestion. I'll hit tab here, and that's how you do it actually. So you'll have to convert it to a template literal string and then use this syntax to use multiple class names. Another note is you notice that I did not add a dash here in the class, but used a JavaScript variable style name. That is because if you add a dash here, that dash will become a minus sign when you're using it here, right? So if the class name was like this, you see there's a syntax error. So you cannot use dash. If you do use dash, then you'll have to use it as a object, I think like array syntax, like something like this. Yeah, if you add a dash, then you'll have to access the variable name like this. So you'll have to add extra brackets and then string, and then here you can add the actual full variable name if you add dashes or any other syntax. But I prefer the camel casing since that's easier to write and less characters. Okay, I'll hit save. I'll hit save here as well. It will upload twice since I did two saves. It is executing and preparing for view. Let's wait a minute, and you can see the blue color is taking effect. So both of our class names are working as expected. All right, so the next file is app.test.ts. Most of the time what I do is just comment everything here since we are not doing any tests, so this is not valid for our case. Finally, there's a index.js file. We will never touch it. It just exports the main component from this file. If you, yeah, I don't think you will ever need to, because I have developed 6 or 7 sites as of now, but none of the sites needed this modification here. Yeah, this file can stay untouched. This file will just comment everything since we do not do testing. The app.js file is mostly where you will work. But let's say I need to create another component file. I'll create a component file which is called randomtext.s. Here I'll need to import React and then export random text, and it will just export a simple paragraph. Let me import this random text component in my app.js file. Let me add that above the paragraph stack here. So I'll do a div, and then, yeah, I don't think we need a class name. Let's just add it random text. It automatically imported. So if I save here, it will automatically upload the add-on one more time, and then the random text should show up above my paragraph in the preview panel. Great, the random text shows up. All right, I think that covers everything you need to know about these components and how to configure them. Before we go on the next video, let's just do one last thing. In the index.js file, we are pulling the name variable, which is coming from this input field. Let me create another input field and then pull that value in index.js file, pass it to main.js as well, and then use it in app.js. Okay, let's find out what type of fields and how many fields we are allowed to use. Okay, so in my browser, I'll search for site vision developer, which will bring up this page, sitedeveloper.sitevision.se. From here, I need to go to the documentation page and then select web app. If you remember, we are using web app. We will also explore the REST API and logging in future lessons. But for now, we just need the web app documentation. Under web app, you will see getting started, SDK styling, configuration, and other stuff. Depending on the app, you may or may not need to read this. But for now, we are interested in the config fields. So I'll go under configuration. Under here, you'll see there's a index.html file, which actually represents the index.html file that you can see here. You'll see the HTML markup matches. This markup is actually this markup. You are free to change the titles here and then the titles here as well. I can see they're actually translating. The translation is to be placed inside IN8 folder. Here you will see there's 2 folders, English, and this is, I think, Swedish, right? So here you will see there's keywords and then the actual translation for both files. The key is same, but the translation is different. And those keys are being pulled here, right? You can see name and settings. This actually corresponds to this name and this setting. All right, time to create a new input field. You can read through here how the index.html file functions. But what I'm interested in is these 2 pages. First one is site vision components. Second one is HTML components. Let me quickly tell you the difference. If you need an input field that just catches some data which doesn't depend on site vision backend, right? For example, the input field I have here is just a single text field. It's taking some time to load. Yeah, this is just a single text field, right? This doesn't depend on site vision values or variables. So this can be found under the HTML components. Let me open it in a new tab. You'll see the HTML components has a text field, email field, text area field, radio buttons, checkboxes, booleans, true or false, single selection, multiple selection. Any example you want to use, you can just copy this and then modify the input fields as needed. This text field is actually this text field here, except they are just translating the label, which may or may not be required. I'll use a site vision component so I can show you the other types of component. You already saw the HTML component here. Okay, under the site vision components, you'll see there's a lot of input fields, and each one of them has unique function. For example, this one lets you select a page, this one lets you select a file, this one lets you select the image. So what I will do is select a link. Okay, so there should be a input field called link selector. If I search for it, link, yeah, here, link selector. I'll copy the input field. Let me just duplicate this one. I'll rename this to be select link. I should have actually kept the translation. Yeah, but let's just move forward. Anyways, so I just added a new input field. The name is link. That is what we'll need to use to fetch the value. But here you'll see there's an important difference. You'll see a data component property, which was not available in the default HTML input fields. Okay, if we go back to site vision and then reopen the settings panel, you will see there should be two fields now. One of them is the name and another one is a link selector. And if I click on the link selector, it will automatically open a pop-up that lets me select any of the pages that I have on this website. Okay, so let me actually select a value. Let me select the SV test page. I'll hit OK and then hit OK. I need to hit OK to save my selection. If I reopen my settings panel, I should be able to see my selection. Okay, the selection is here. Okay, our next task will be to fetch this value and use it in the app component. So I'll close my config field, go back to my file in the root where we need to fetch all the values from this app data thing, which comes from server. Okay, I'll just duplicate this line and then name it link, and then this needs to correspond to the actual input field name. So this link goes here, this link. Don't be confused by this variable name and this name. Okay, so this name can be anything, but this name needs to match with this input field name. So just to prove it, let me just rename it something else. All right, so value fetching is done. Now we need to pass this value to our React component. I'll just pass it here. I need to pass it in two places. So one of them is this component. So after name, we also need to pass this thing. This will be passed as a prop. This prop can also be named anything I want. I also need to pass it after in the second bracket here. Okay, the task in index.js is done. Now I need to update main.js. I need to do the same thing here, except this time we'll pull it from initial state. Okay, and then save. Nothing should happen in the front end because we just passed the value, but we haven't used the value yet. So in the app component, I'll receive our cool link and then use it as we can use it maybe here. We could create a button, but let's just turn this into a link tag and then use the age ref here. Why is it? Okay, so it is asking me to add it to our prop testing. So I have made a mistake here intentionally because this link is not a string. If I go back here, yeah, we are expecting the link to be a string, but it's not actually a string. So just to show you what that value actually is, I'll just console.log our link. Why is it giving me error? Console is not defined. Okay, I'll just ignore that. All right, so the app was posted without error. Let me just reload the front end. If I do some inspect here, you'll see the is just an ID, right? It's not an actual link. So there are some fields to get the proper value from them. In the index.js file, you need to pass a second argument here. For example, for this part, I'll need to tell the app data variable that I need the URL. Okay, so after passing the input field name, I also need to tell him exactly the field I want from this object, from this link object. This is also true for image. If I was using an image, I would also need to fetch the URL. But if it's just a string value, for example, the name, you do not need to pass a second argument. Okay, I'll save this and then this should automatically reload and then we should get a proper link. We can also check the console. Yeah, it was loaded, but I don't see a link yet. Yeah, I can see a link actually. You can see that our console log is working and now it's a proper link. If I go back to the element and then try to inspect it, for some reason I cannot select the element direct. Yeah, but you can see the paragraph tag is underneath and then this is actual link to the page we selected. If I just click on it, you can see the SV test page that we selected is being loaded here. All right, that is all that we wanted to review on this video. Our goal was to show the folder structure of the app and then the important documentation link, which is this one.